spring game.
A little handed off on the opening play. Talk about Jason Beck. The run game was heavily featured at Utah last year, and historically he's had really good run games. That first handoff goes to Bryson Cusdall, who's kind of in the mix for that second running back spot as well. 76 carries last season. Definitely a name that we'll talk about in that running back rotation today.
First quarter, all thud. Second quarter on will be tackling.
Underwood will roll out of the pocket on his first pass attempt, and he'll have to play it safe, tuck this one up, and go out of bounds.
So here's exactly what I was just saying is I'm really looking at this offensive line to try to hold up and keep him clean. There's going to be no blitzes by the Michigan defense today, but defensive line games are allowed, which you saw there, and that's what led to that leaky protection. But the athleticism of Bryce, the ability to get the edge of the defense showing up. Great athlete.
You mentioned tackling that opening quarter. If there was one, maybe credit Jonah Leah there, who's one of the transfers from Utah. Throw over the middle. It is caught over the middle. Good first grab there. Eli Owens making the reception. One of the tight ends in a relatively open tight end room.
And a good job threading the needle here by Bryce Underwood. It's just a confident throw, throwing over the middle on third down. But what you'll notice there, protection just held up enough. And let's see his feet. See his eyes getting all the way through his reads. Arm talent, that ball just jumps out of his hands. But it's really for Bryce, it just comes back to the basics. The talent is undeniable and unquestionable, but how he maximizes that talent is through the footwork, fundamental, and eyes, and a good job bringing it all together there on third down.
Gain of 16 there on third down. Of course, good to simulate that patience on third down plays as well, getting as much reps with that. Cusdall takes another carry, his second of the game. Credit Bowles with the tackle there, simulated tackle right now, and Troy Bowles, son of Bucks coach Todd Bowles, going to be a key piece at linebacker. You look at Michigan and Utah. Of course, we're talking a lot about Utah last year, where Kyle Whittingham came from, and what the offensive production was for Utah as well under offensive coordinator Jason Beck, who's now the Michigan offensive coordinator.
I think you're going to see a lot of similarities in the run game, but how you make up that 14-point difference in points is really going to fall on the shoulders of Bryce.
Utah put up some points in the Big 12 last year as that pass intended for Hogan Hansen, the other tight end on this MAIZE group, is incomplete. Hansen has proven his hands. He's flashed in the past. Credited with some good stuff and the opportunities that he's been given. He'll trot off the field. So now another third down situation coming up. They gained 16 the last time they were in a third down scenario.
Once again, let's watch Bryce's feet. Remember, the blue defense, neither defense is going to bring pressure. They're going to play split safety defense, so Bryce should know the coverage.
Got some good protection here. He'll go downfield, one-on-one, out of the reach just of Celesi Moa, the freshman from Utah. Leaping out, you see his speed there, creating some separation.
Yeah, and they're excited about him. This wide receiver room is extremely young. You see Bryce, a good job again, navigating the pocket. Nothing was open, and then there's the arm talent. Moa has a chance, uses his body, but wasn't able to come down with it. He did get his hand on it, but he had a step. I thought Bryce did a good job of giving him a chance, but it's important to note there's a lot of youth on this offense. Bryce, he's 18 years old. He's a sophomore. The two leading receivers, Andrew Marsh and J.J. Buchanan, both sophomores. And then that wide receiver 3 spot is up for grabs. Moa is one of those names that's been tossed around. Freshman, couldn't connect with Bryce Underwood there.
Yeah, Jake, you were just talking about Bryce Underwood and kind of that development. Offensive coordinator Jason Beck was telling us that every quarterback that he's had is a little bit different, so he's trying to tailor the offense to what he does well, what his strengths are, and not trying to force Underwood to be anything but himself.
And that's such an important point there, Jason, is, you have two philosophies. Some coordinators say, hey, this is what I do and we're going to do it. The best coordinators say, hey, what do I have? They're going to tailor this offense, to Caroline's point, to the strengths of Bryce Underwood and the strengths of some of their athletes, like you see there, Jordan Marshall.
Now he's got Jordan Marshall in his backfield, who's going to be that #1 running back for Michigan. 6.1 yards per carry last season, nearly 1,000 yards. That was his first carry of the day.
Yeah, I mean, the standard here in Ann Arbor is to have multiple great running backs. It was Justin Haynes on a Heisman campaign. He gets injured. And then Jordan Marshall looks like he could be a Heisman candidate this year. high-level talent. He's a future NFL running back. He'll be the bell cow to start this season. But as we said, we'll be keeping our eyes on number 5, the freshman, Savion Hyder, at points today.
All Big Ten second team. One of the hardest guys in the Big Ten to take down as well after contact. Hopping up the middle once again there. Again, no tackling in this first quarter. We will see tackling in the second, third, and fourth quarters.
And with no tackling, you know, you thud, you tag off. So where you have to earn your money offensively, the offensive line needs to get pushed. That was a great job by the Blue offense getting pushed there. Marshall wasn't touched until he was 4 or 5 yards downfield.
Kyle Whittingham has touched on the continued development of this offensive line. Some names are in today, some names are out. As Underwood steps up again here through the middle of that pocket that was collapsing on him. Maybe credit Trey Pierce there if you were to give someone a tackle.
And I want to hammer this point home because I think the viewers should be taking their eyes to the line of scrimmage consistently. This defensive line and defense in general is going to be exotic, multiple. They're going to run blitzes. Not today. It's a 4-down front. There's no pressures. The only thing allowed is defensive line games. So that should be an advantage to both offensive lines. But that time the MAIZE defensive line won.
Marshall flips out as a receiver this time, makes the grab. And
right now, other than Chase Taylor, those reps are going to be up for grabs.
Marshall still in the backfield, blocking for his QB Underwood this time. Who rolled
on Henry Daly, another guy that you won't see today as he's returning from his Achilles, expected to be cleared June 1st. He's an All-American talent to go on top of some of the other players.
Some trickery for the first time. Travis Johnson got a block on the outside and stepped up just past 35. To go back to John Henry Daly there. He had a phenomenal season at Utah a year ago. 11.5 sacks, 48 total tackles. Also played for BYU in his career, but like you mentioned, recovering from the injury after an all Big 12 year.
And to win in this league, you have to be able to win at the line of scrimmage. You have to be able to affect quarterbacks. John Henry Daly, one of the best edge rushers in college football. It's really encouraging to hear how he's progressing coming back from that Achilles, and if they can get him back to his playing standard, that'll bode well for Michigan.
Just kind of fits right in as Michigan runs up the middle here. Jake, you and I have just, we have our conversations, our dinners in the past, and remember one time we were chatting and we said if there was a program before Whittingham came over to Michigan that could fit in the Big Ten, it would be Utah.
Yeah.
And now, fittingly, Kyle Whittingham, not to say we're pretty good at manifesting together, but I think we are, comes over to Michigan along with his staff, and so you can see that style translate so well. It was a couple of decades of consistency with the Utes. I mean, you turn on a Utah football game over the last 20 years, and you knew what you were going to get out of each Saturday performance from them, what kind of effort they were going to bring to each Saturday.
I know this as a player. I lost to him twice early in my career.
There's a flip trying to get another third down conversion. That was Marshall on the catch, but do they have... There's Buchanan.
Jason, we just saw a little bit of that trickery that you were referencing, and that's because offensive coordinator Jason Beck says that reputation for his offense is going to be really hard to defend. He wants every play to be a different formation. He told us he wants them to be balanced, attacking, and dynamic, and ultimately scoring points and protecting the ball. So hopefully these Michigan fans are going to see a team that can run the ball over 200 yards and pass the ball over 200 yards this fall.
And to that point, what that really means is they want to look complex to defenses with different personnel packages, formations, shifts, motions. But at the end of the day, you're still calling those same base plays, so it's simple in scheme.
Right on cue, more trickery. Underwood going to launch down the field, down the sideline, but just out of the reach of his intended target over there. Looking for Jalen Hoffman. The senior tight end was primarily on special teams last year, was leaking out after that trickery.
Yeah, and he had him, and this is the second deep ball where Bryce Underwood has had a guy downfield with a step. This time Hoffman was pretty open at the college level, and Bryce just couldn't connect with him. Hoffman more of a fullback type role, but has some catching ability. I think one thing for Bryce, one of the things that stood out to me last fall is a lot of the passes were on the same trajectory. He throws a great fastball, but on some of these deeper passes, especially to tight ends, he could benefit from putting some more air on it to let him adjust.
Underwood brought down in the backfield. That's Nate Marshall creeping back there.
And Nate Marshall is one of those guys that Whittingham highlighted as a potential breakout there on the edge. Dominic Nichols, Cameron Brandt. This time, Nate Marshall is working up against Evan Link guy who's been a featured piece of this Michigan offensive line. That's just a great pass rush move. He gets right into Link's bodies. Link sits back on his heels and then uses his hands to get to the sack. That battle won by Nate Marshall, the sophomore.
You get toward the tail end of this opening quarter where Underwood's playing both teams. Throw over the middle that time into trap it. Nearly hauled in, but incomplete. Last second effort from J.J. Buchanan. Again, showing they trust him in those contested catch scenarios. The transfer from Utah, he was with Coach Whittingham there last year at 26 catches, 427 yards, 5 touchdowns.
He's a big body, so I'm sure Bryce Underwood trusts him in contested catches situations. And that's a really risky throw, Jace, especially here. It's in the first quarter. Now you got to factor in the mindset of Bryce Underwood. He knows he's only going to play one quarter. He's a competitor. He wants to showcase the growth that he's taken on this spring. But that's a throw, come fall in the first quarter, you really don't want to make. It's just far too risky. Lucky that one didn't end up with an interception, but J.J. Buchanan, he almost came down with it anyways.
It was Chris Bracey who broke that up, by the way, to point out one of the defensive transfers coming in from Memphis, who was a starter in Memphis' secondary last year, had 2 seasons at UAB as well. So Chris Bracey, a name to keep an eye on, flashing there defensively against Buchanan. Transfer on transfer crime that time. And now flip it back over to the MAIZE team on offense. Once again, Underwood still the QB, low snap, has to pick it up. Good protection, and the throw slips in and out of the hands of his intended receiver that time. Looking for Andrew Marsh, who is the returning leading wide receiver on this group. 651 yards a season ago, 4 touchdowns, and one of the best freshman wide receiver seasons we've seen at Michigan over the last 20 years.
Yeah, and these guys were a nightmare for opposing defenses to try to defend. I think Whittingham put it perfectly in our meetings this week. He said, each quarterback has their go-to guy, and that's Andrew Marsh. They just happen to be always on the same page. That time just couldn't come down with the completion.
Might have had intentions for Marsh again that time, but it was deflected up at the line of scrimmage.
But what you're noticing here is, again, the pocket is leaky. Bryce Underwood, that is a quick drop. It's a quick passing game concept, and yet there's a guy right in Bryce's face, which shouldn't be the case in the quick game. It should be the case when we know the defense isn't bringing pressure. But it's just something to watch. It's not all on Bryce to get this passing game to the next level. It's going to be the offensive line trying to keep that clean pocket, and again, Bryce trusting that clean pocket when it applies.
Lugard and Opai had the deflection that time, so now another third down scenario, and let's see if they whistle it down. A good pressure once again defensively. That time coming from the backfield as Eno Etta got there.
Keep an eye on Eno Etta, another guy that Whittingham mentioned that they think they're 5 deep at D tackle, and Eno Etta was the first name that Whittingham mentioned from that group. 6'5", 320, he's a force, but how about the quickness too and the speed to try to run down Bryce Underwood? There's a standard here in Ann Arbor. We talk about the offensive line play, we talk about the running back play, but even going back to my time, we're going to talk to Chris Wormley in the third quarter, my co-captain, but the interior defensive line play has been to a high standard. Most recently, you had Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant drafted in the first round. Eno Etta is a guy that has waited patiently in this program. He's a senior now, an upperclassman, and I'd be looking for him to have a breakout season.
Absolutely. So we've seen Eno Etta make some good plays so far. Chris Bracey on the MAIZE defense, as MAIZE is back on defense now, maybe for a couple more plays in this first quarter. And he'll whistle down the Marshall run. He's looked good so far. We might not see him in the second quarter, so that'll do it for the opening quarter of play here in the MAIZE.